Hi, I'm Sandy Powell. Welcome to the Round Table. Today, got a little twist for you. I'm going to actually be the guest on my very own show. So stay tuned.
Rise from the ashes. Everywhere we go, our light be flashing. 'Cause you're alive. Yes, you're alive. You can rise as you're dancing off the ashes. Rise from the ashes. So everywhere that we go, our light be flashing. 'Cause you're alive. Yes, you're alive. You can rise as you're dancing off the.
Hello, and welcome to the Round Table. And my, how the tables have turned. I am your host for this episode, Dana Richardson, and I am interviewing none other than Mrs. Sandy Powell.
The tables have
turned. This round table has turned.
It is.
It is great to see you this evening. You are looking lovely as always.
You are the cause of that. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. So, listen, we are just going to jump straight into it tonight.
Okay.
We are talking about rising from the ashes, and I just want to know, what exactly does that mean to Sandy Powell, to rise from the ashes?
Great question. The rising from the ashes for me is coming from the place of total annihilation, where your life has turned in circumstances, situation. For me, it was my bottom out, burnout. I was in the middle of the trash heap, and I was consumed.
Okay. Now, I have known you now for less than a decade,
Right.
but the Sandy Powell, as I have given you so many names, that I know is this fabulous woman. She is this woman that, in my eyes, I say it all the time, you are just a jewel. I am one of your spiritual daughters.
Yeah.
I am a member here at World Changes.
Yeah.
And what I see in front of me, I know is now a culmination of all of the things that you just named, the burnout, the this and the that. But because I did not know you back then, I wouldn't know what those things are. So I'm sure there's other people who are just like me, and we don't know that part of your life.
Right.
So kind of tell me, what was that annihilation? What happened as you walked through your life that led you to where you are today?
Well, just addressing the part about not looking like what you've been through, that is basically how I see, my theme song, Rise from the Ashes. That's my motto. That's my anthem. Rise from the ashes, because the thing about ash, if you have ever had it, it's just a lightweight type thing. It is the residue or the leftover of what was consumed.
Right.
And off of me, in my trash heap, in my pile, where I was consumed, where I was molded and made, and life torched me there.
Got you. Now, you have spoken very openly, even here on this show, about, domestic abuse.
Yep.
And we've talked about, well, not we, but I've watched as you and other pastors have talked about, church hurt, ministry. You're a mother, you're a wife, you're all of these things. Can you pinpoint specifically what life occurrences happened that consumed you outside of what you've already shared?
Life is a combination of things. It's like you want to say it was one thing, but it was a conglomerate of things. It's hard to say one thing.
Right.
As a divorcee, one who was in domestic violent relationship, even going back further than that, the beginning of this burnout, so to speak, as a child, being ridiculed, being, having been molested, sexual abuse or sexual tampering, so to speak. All of those things led to this trash heap, led to this place where I was done. Nothing else left.
Speaking on the domestic violence part, the molestation,
Right.
there are times when things like that happen, you feel worthless.
Yes.
You feel like there's no value to you.
Right.
You feel like, I'm garbage, like you said, the trash heap. But who you are today is a very confident woman.
Right.
You are a woman that you make no apologies for it.
Right.
It's if I'm going to go left, I'm going left. And if I'm going to go right, I'm going to go right. I want this cup on this table right here. And we're going to put the cup right
Just
here
like
on
this.
the table. Just like this, because Sandy said so, right? So let's talk about the transition period. So you said it started when you were a very young girl.
Very young.
So there was obviously someone who was responsible for you as a young child. You know, you have your family, you have parents and different people in place. And did you ever feel like you were failed as a young child? That's part A to this question. And part
Right.
B, how do you go, if you did feel failed, to the point now where you can say, I may have been failed, but now I stand on my own for who we see today.
Right.
And I'm not a failure. I'm not garbage. I'm not trash. How do you go from that point in life to where you are now?
Well, poverty has its own demons. Poverty has its own evil, its own evil. Like I said, we were ridiculed as kids about being poor. It tears at your self-esteem as to who you are. And it's amazing how we as kids allow tangible clothing
Right.
to determine who we are. But unfortunately, it is just the way it is. And so that was a part that was ripped from me. Also, like you said, in the home we had parents, but my mother was in a domestic violent situation. She was also abused. And so in her survival, sometimes we were lost in her survival.
You kind of got lost in the shuffle of things.
7 of us.
Right.
7 of us and a dog.
So even if the domestic abuse had not have been there, just being a mother of 7 children, I mean, 2 or
That's a
3
lot.
children is a lot.
It's a lot. And then when you have 7 kids, you have a parent, a father in the home who is not responsible, and there is abuse as far as alcoholism.
Which is a drug.
Is prevalent in the home. It's obvious that we are under this type of home. It tears at who you are. A lot of times I used to wish I was somewhere else, fantasize about being somewhere else. And this particular summer, I remember this particular summer, God sent me a saving grace moment. You know, that's how we survive. God sent me a saving grace moment. I had this individual, I don't know. People call him an angel, people call him whatever. But it was a way for me to go and talk to somebody.
You were able to open up now?
I was able to open up.
Okay.
He lived in the tree. And I know, okay, all right, y'all, stop acting like y'all, like I'm something wrong with me. But this individual, this being, this angel, he lived in a tree. It was a male. And I could come out to him, and it's like his little door opened up, and I could just talk to him. And then after I get done saying what I had to say, I would say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And that was every day for this summer.
Wow. And how old were you then?
I had to be about 9, 10-ish.
Okay, so did 9-year-old Sandy recognize this man in the tree as divine intervention? Did you know of God at that point? Was your relationship with your now Savior, that we all know, awesome, powerful woman of God, do you look back now and say, I knew that was a higher being, something outside of this realm or this world? Did you know it was God then?
I did not know it was God. I did not know it to be an angel. All I know is that he was a safe place and that I could go and talk to him. And I could tell him anything, and I could talk to him about anything. And I didn't have to worry about him ridiculing me. I didn't have to worry about him saying ugly things to me or being mean to me. And all I knew is that I looked forward to every day going out. And it was only a certain time of the day that I went there. It wasn't any other time of the day, but that time of day. And I could go and talk to him.
So you may not have known it then, but you definitely know now that that was the hand of God.
Definitely the hand of God.
Okay, so let's go a little bit further. So we have childhood Sandy that, you know, obviously you saw some type of abuse that mom had to deal with.
Right.
You were impoverished. You had lots of siblings in the home.
Right.
And now you're moving a little further. your story is being built there from childhood.
Right.
Take me to adolescent Sandy. Take me to Sandy as a young teenage, preteen, young teenage years. And we're talking about rising from the ashes here.
Right.
So at this point, you're already being demolished. You're already being consumed.
Right. I'm shying away. I'm not to my potential because I don't believe in myself. I don't even know that I'm worth anything.
Now, is the man in the tree still there?
The man in the tree is not there.
When does he leave?
That summer. I only had him a summer.
For one summer, wow.
One summer. And after that, and I think it was a critical summer because it was the summer it was the year that my grandmother passed away.
Okay.
And the year that my grandmother passed away. And I remember it wasn't much longer after that. I think we moved away. But she was my connection to God. She was the only person that I knew that knew God. Mm-hmm. Because before her, church wasn't in our home like that. So when she came, everybody had to go to church.
Right.
So she was my connection to God.
And so you learned of God's existence through Grandma.
Through Grandma.
Through Grandma.
And she was with us, I think, 8 or 9 years only. Oh, wow. So it was a short-lived relationship, but one that, to this day, at 56 years old, I know was the foundation of who I am today.
And, Scripture tells us how important children are. To God. Jesus oftentimes talks specifically about children, and then there were parallels in the scripture about children and, even having childlike faith.
Right.
So would you say that faith, that little Sandy talking to that man in the tree for that one summer carries over to 56-year-old Sandy
It does,
today?
because I remember, the gift comes without repentance. And a lot of times my family, I would see things. I had vision. Mm-hmm. And back then, back in the day, they didn't know what it was. We didn't say prophetic.
Right.
We were Baptists.
So
we said this. We said it was a sixth sense. She got a sixth sense.
Right, because I was going to ask you, did it go the other direction where they sometimes talked about the lady that could read people?
They called it a sixth sense or third eye, they called me.
Okay.
She got third eye.
Because every neighborhood kind of had that lady. It was always a lady. It wasn't a man. Oh, she read people. She read people real good.
Right.
But they didn't go that far with it. It was just that sixth sense.
It was just a sixth sense, and I could tell. I knew when things was wrong. I knew when things was going to happen. I could see it before I got home that trouble was already there. And when I got there, sure enough, it was in full bloom from school. And so it was that kind of thing. Saw Grandma, before Grandma. I saw Grandma. Gotcha. And so when I saw her actually in the coffin, it was like a deja vu kind of thing. So that kind of thing. But all of those things, Grandma, the vision, this was still just a part of me, but I had nobody to guide me with it.
Gotcha.
When Grandma left, there was no guidance.
So it's just left wide open.
Spirituality, yeah.
Okay. So high school.
High school.
Sandy.
Hated it.
Tell us why. And these questions, I think the viewing audience really wants. It's like that peek behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. A lot of us here, we get to see you and we get our one-on-ones, but just the vision that you have for the round table in and of itself, you're reaching people who might not ever see you in person, and this is what they see, is this fabulous, woman here, and just what you've just shared, that is like, whew, that happened to her.
Yeah. Because
we see the glamour, we see the beautiful smile, not just, I think Tyra Banks, she says you have to smile with your eyes, and that saying, the eyes are the window to the soul, you have such a beautiful smile, and you smile with your eyes, and all of those things. So we didn't know that little Sandy, as a young girl, had to deal with this. Now high school Sandy is dealing with what? What happened to her?
High school Sandy is just trying to get through. I'm not involved in any activities. I'm not trying to be. If I didn't have to go to class, I wouldn't go to class. I liked some parts of school, like I loved social studies and I loved English for some reason. But math, and don't follow me, math, my algebra class, I went twice.
Oh. Okay.
I went twice to my algebra class. And a lot of it had to do with because this formed in me as a young girl. I did not feel worthwhile. I did not feel like I could accomplish it. Okay. And so any type of resistance meant back away, let it go, don't do that.
So were there any events like the ones that happened in your childhood? Were there any specific events that happened during your high school years that took place, or was it just building upon the foundation that was laid as a little girl?
It was a foundation starting with as a little girl, and it was just different things. Every level had a different way of trying to chop at my tree, so to speak, trying to bring me down. And so high school was kind of one of those things where, you know, and that's even today, you know, you got to have money to participate.
Right.
If you don't have money, you're just not going to be involved. So I knew we didn't have money, so I wouldn't go there.
So you just go to school,
come home. And you know, they had the free lunch program. You know, I wish I had my mind that I have then. I'd ate everybody's food in the cafeteria. But we qualified for the food free lunch program. But because it identified me with poverty, I would not eat.
You shied away. Now you are one of 7 total?
7 total.
Now where do you fall in line?
I'm smack in the middle.
So with the poverty thing, was that hand-me-downs with your clothing?
Oh yeah, we mean hand-me-down. We shared them at the same time.
At the same time. I heard a comedian say that before.
Hand it over.
We hand it over. Okay, so possibly getting bullied or talked about, ridiculed, because so in Sandy's mind at this point is developed this sense of I'm not worthy.
Not worthy.
I don't measure up.
Not pretty, not cute. No one really likes me outside of my family, you know, whatever. You just withdrawn. You find yourself withdrawn, and but I will say in the 10th grade something happened.
And what was that? Did somebody start taking notice of you?
No.
No. What was that?
Other than me.
Okay.
Something happened, and I can't really explain it. It was a snap.
Like a switch?
Like a rubber band broke. And all of a sudden, the things that mattered, that I was saying, well, I want them to like me, I hope that, you know, I held my breath sometime when I walked past other students.
Wow.
Like that made me invisible. So I would hold my breath until I passed everybody by.
Now, were you retreating back to that place that you had as a young girl where you said you would hide and you almost went into a shell or a cocoon, the way you described it?
The hiding was so that they wouldn't notice me, so they wouldn't have anything to say.
Bad to say.
Right, because there was never anything nice to say. And I remember one time, and this is going back just a little bit in elementary, I had gotten new clothes for school, and back then it was bell bottoms and you know the little platform shoes.
Did you have a fro too?
I had a fro, but not this time, man. It just wasn't that. I wasn't old enough to wear the fro.
Gotcha.
But I had gotten some new jeans, and they were brand new, and they were nice, and I loved them, and I put them on, and they were too short. High waters. Remember that?
You were tall enough for high waters.
I was tall enough for high waters. They came up too far, and I remember saying they're too short. I can't wear them because when I get to school, they're going to tease me. I can't wear them. But my mother made me wear them because they're brand new. I done paid my money. You can wear them.
Right.
So I remember wearing them to school, and I remember constantly tugging on them, trying to pull them down, trying to make them look right. And I remember we had this classroom called a pod, where you had 5 different classrooms all in one big room, and the only thing separated us was dividers between, but in the center of the room, we could look across and see everybody.
Okay.
So in the middle of the classroom, one teacher could come up and teach all 5 classes
at the same
time, a subject or a topic. And this particular day, Mr. Gray, I think his name was Mr. Gray, but I loved him, and he had a really good heart for me. He thought I was just a really good kid. I had good grades and stuff like that. And so he was trying to give me an honor spot by calling me up and giving me praise.
But the pants.
But he called me on the wrong day.
Because of the pants.
Because of the pants. And so when I came up to meet him in the middle of the pod, because he called me, because he's an adult, I'm going to do what you say, the whole place just broke out in a roar, in laughter at my clothing.
And what did you do?
In myself, I went invisible. I just held my breath as many times as I could to try to hide. That was my thing, hold my breath. And then it's like I could fade away in that for some reason. And I remember thinking how bad I felt that day. And so fast forward, I remember in the 10th grade, that bondage band snapped. No one pulled on it. No one tugged it. Just one day I just decided, what other people think about me is really just not that important.
Just like that.
And one day, and I just walked into school, and I had a seat, and from that day, it was like it was on mission of, let me just get out of this school thing so I can get on with my life.
Okay, so just to recap here, we go from everything that you've already named that just brought you down low. And then when the snap happened, you rose up some, right?
Right.
So how do we go from that lift? How do we go from you being in a risen state to now you're rising from the ashes again?
The enemy has a plot and a plan. And so when you take a step up or you feel like you're trying to raise up, because I have been formed and shaped, you know, when I went to look for a husband, I looked for what I was raised by.
Gotcha.
And found him.
And how old were you?
I was in high school when I found, when my husband, then boyfriend, found me.
Okay.
He was my best friend's cousin. And he was everything I didn't need. He needed to be loved, and I'll say that. He needed to be loved, and he was not loved, and he was incapable of loving.
Okay. So now you have joined. We took a toxic situation, entity, we'll say entity, and another toxic entity in the form of a young man and a young woman, and we put them together.
Right.
And we have whatever his past and his history, and your past and your history, that only something had snapped, but nothing was delivered or set free necessarily.
Because I didn't have a role model as to what to do about finding or gravitating to the right kind of person. And so anyone who showed any kind of interest that wasn't ridiculing was an interest.
Okay. So you're connected at this point.
We're connected.
Take us to the point that caused you to go low. What happened at that point? Or was this the point that you hit your lowest, or did something else happen and get added on before you hit your lowest?
My marriage was the re-entry to what I had escaped, or thought I had escaped. I had taken this position of whatever, no more. I'm just going to live my life.
And you lived it for a while.
For, a couple of years. Short season.
Okay.
I decided I wasn't going to allow what other people thought about me and said about me make a difference to me like that. To only find the person that I loved and that I thought loved me now made me feel like that again. And so I shrunk again.
So was it a little honeymoon phase before it happened?
Actually, the signs were on the wall in the dating process.
Okay, so out the gate.
Out the gate.
But we have a blind eye to it because now somebody accepts me.
Right.
Everything that I see in the mirror that I thought was not so, but here's somebody that says that looks good to me and I want it.
Right.
And that's all Sandy needed to hear at that point.
Exactly.
And little did you know you were entering into, what would you call that place?
It was my shrinkage again.
In a greater way now?
Bigger.
Bigger.
Bigger because now he touched my soul, like, because I loved him.
Okay. And you had not experienced love like that or what you thought love was at that point until that time?
Until that time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had told him then, I said, you know, I loved him. Like I said, I could just open up your chest and just get in and live.
Did you feel safe?
In the beginning, because he was such a brute, you know, that no one dared challenge him.
Okay.
So he was.
So is it possible that this was maybe another man in the tree, in tangible form? The feeling that you got, the sense of security, or maybe a fortress around you to protect you?
I did not always feel safe with him, though.
In the beginning?
In the beginning.
Okay.
Even in the beginning. I felt he bit early. He didn't wait to bite. I just didn't know to run on the first bite.
Okay, so we are up to what age at this point?
I am now married. I have children. I am a shell of who I am supposed to be because I'm not allowed to shine.
So
I'm
maybe
not-
like a walking zombie. You're existing, but you're not living
I'm
at
not
that
living.
point. Now, when you look back, did you see the hand of God even in that?
I did, because there were times that I would, and in the meantime, all of this is happening. I have this heart after God. I want to love God. I want to live right. I want to walk upright, and I feel like I'm attached or chained to somebody who doesn't.
Now, had you given your life to Christ at that point
Yes,
yet?
I had, got saved, backslid.
Now, how old were you when you first got saved?
15.
Okay, so then we have to go back a little bit, and then we'll catch back up. So grandmom was gone,
Grandma's gone.
but you did give your life to Christ.
Right, and I actually gave my life to Christ by way of my brother witnessing Christ to us, and but it was he just really opened it up, but it was always just right there anyway, and so he just opened it up for it to be okay to do it.
Gotcha.
Because grandma, this is grandma. I'm gonna tell you about God, but she never told us you have to accept Jesus in your heart, because she didn't. I don't think
Gotcha.
know all of that. But my brother came and brought the how-to.
The
to
true
us.
salvation
The true
piece.
salvation.
The true
to it.
salvation
Grandma
piece.
introduced us to God, and my brother introduced us to Christ.
Understood. So we have young Sandy, young wife,
Young wife.
young mother,
Young mother.
with all of these things that have now this rise that you felt in high school. Now you're back low.
Back low.
How low are you at this point? Are you at your lowest yet, or are you approaching your lowest?
I am very close to my very, very low place.
Okay, so fill in the gaps for us, if you can sum it up with what happened in the interim, or was it something else that happened, or was it just still the same stuff happening and piling and piling and piling?
It's just like a it's like a road. It's like a what's you call that thing that just goes around and around.
Merry-go-round.
Merry-go-round. It's the same ride.
Vicious cycle.
It's just the same. Yeah, it's the same ride. Different city, same ride. Different place, same ride. Different. It's the same thing happening over and over and over again. And then what you do is you learn how to survive as that person, that low person. You learn how to keep your head low. You learn how to
Kind of like a
shy
method to
away,
the madness.
hold my breath again, but now in a different way.
So, take us to the low place. Take us to, because I'm learning things that I didn't know, and I know we just can't go and peel back every single layer, but we get the picture at this point. On the inside, just crushed.
Right.
On the inside, there's just low self-esteem, a very poor self-image.
Right.
Take us to Sandy's low at that point. What was that place? What did that look like, and what was different that you now know that was your low place?
My low place was when
This episode of the Round Table, we have it here straight from Mrs. Sandy Powell herself. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Okay, guys, this is getting really good, so let's just go ahead and go on over to the YouTube channel. Meet me at the Round Table, Part 2.